Ladies and gents, welcome back to the LCO, where we're about to get underway with the first ever Max of the Week. Let me hear you make some noise!
Yeah.
Thanks. Twitch chat probably made heaps of noise too.
Dun, dun, dun.
Why didn't we bring an air horn for this?
We've got one.
Bro, I'm actually
True,
a
it's true.
soundboard, mate.
Proud of you, Skinny.
Mom, get the camera!
True. Boom, headshot.
I think he's a bit more convincing.
Yeah, man.
Boom, headshot.
You actually a voice actor, though. I remember when we played Champion Conundrum. You're pretty good. Yeah, you're pretty good, man.
Shh. Pipe down. Pipe
Okay,
down.
I'm
Because it's time for everyone to watch this. Ready? I might not be a soundboard.
Yeah.
I might not be a voice actor. But I am a dare drinking model.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, damn, that's good. Almost as good as Bliss. Let's talk about Bliss for the first team in this matchup, of course. They're looking pretty good. You know, they've got a skill ceiling. They have not hit it. They're not even close to it. But we know what they're capable of. Max, please tell me what you think of Bliss so far.
I think Bliss is a team that haven't been showing what they're capable of. From what I've heard from behind the scenes and from the strength of their roster, which we're looking at now,
Yeah.
I think that they can actually contend with a lot of the top teams. And I think that what we've been seeing on stage, you know, besides their most recent win, has been a lot of shakiness, right? I am really confident, especially what I'm seeing with Why Not. I think he was my biggest question mark with this roster heading into this split, but I think he has shown really good aggressive play, willingness to invade, which is something from a rookie. Like, to be able to snowball these aggressive plays in the early game is not something you see very often. So, look, I'm really confident that as this roster starts to click, gets a little bit more stage experience, that they will be a really scary team to contend with.
I'm pretty sure they will be as well. But Ground Zero, they are a team that have started to show some signs of getting some dubs. So let's have a look at their roster as well before we jump on into the deeper discussion. So far, it feels like that bot lane has not had a chance to get unleashed. But look, towards mid, towards that jungle area, we saw a little bit of good things coming out of Gooby yesterday.
We did, yeah, and I think the biggest thing for me that I've taken away from this roster so far has been comfort picks. We saw Gooby on the Graves, which is one of his hallmarks. Obviously, Emphis getting a chance to play the LeBlanc, as Kitty mentioned as well. So I think for me, this is a case of just getting comfortable with the competitive environment, finding out really what the strength of your team is going to be, whether or not you want to be playing for these late game scenarios, you want to be all about the team fight, the macro, whatever it may be, and then really making sure that you're geared up and ready to go by the time we hit playoffs. So I think there's a lot left to really give from this team. It's just about finding it.
Yeah, it feels like it's a interesting affair. You know, sometimes, you know, especially going up against the likes of Direwolves yesterday, we really enjoyed what we saw from the first 10 minutes, but now the question is, can they do just as well up against the likes of Bliss, up against the likes of Why Not running at them within the first 5 or 7 minutes, 5 or 7 times?
Which is actually an interesting point for this game and how it plays out, because Bliss have looked their best in the early game, usually around Why Not's first couple of clears and deploys around the map. So if that's the one point that we've seen from Ground Zero that we call a strength, then we have to acknowledge that their opponents in the game today are going to be pretty strong there as well. So it could be an early clash that makes a big difference for the game's outcome.
Where are we seeing, you know, the biggest point of contention here in terms of which teams have their strongest lanes? On paper, Ground Zero's is towards the bot lane, but Bliss, it's, you know, is it jungle mid? Are we still waiting? Is their strongest lane the ones that are, you know, communicating the best on the day? Is that what the win condition is for Bliss?
For Bliss, I think it is around how their jungler and mid interact, but we have to acknowledge that, and as we've heard from the interviews as well, particularly yesterday from Why Not, that their mid laner is improving at his English confidence and capabilities to speak during games, but he is a Korean import. So that is something that can take time, but I think that that is still a strength for them, at least in the Rift today, given Daystar's potential and Why Not's aggression and early mechanical ability.
And I'd absolutely agree with that. I think if we look at past performances as well, I think obviously Why Not's been a standout to me. Daystar with a nice 1v2 outplay in the last game. And I think that Gooby, for me, is someone on Ground Zero who hasn't looked as confident as I would have expected him to. Right? I think he is definitely getting used to a competitive environment, transitioning from solo queue. And I think particularly around some early skirmishes like a dragon fight we saw yesterday, just not really having the confidence to execute mechanically where you know he can, right? From watching Gooby in solo queue, you know he's able to execute on these plays. It's just a matter of actually replicating that in a competitive environment.
Okay, well, one person that has played in a competitive environment isn't just you, Max. It's Benvy. We got him here for the pre-match interview. Benvy, my king. If I had to say there was one player that was the best in the league, I'd pick you. Who would you pick?
Probably me, yeah.
True. That's confidence. That's exactly what we wanted to hear. Now, how's the communication going? Of course, we're getting, frequent updates coming from you guys as to how Daystar's fitting in the team. Of course, we've heard that there's been a few miscommunication issues, and we're saying you guys have this skill ceiling that's ridiculously high. How close are you to hitting that at the moment?
Well, I mean, we're kind of scrim gods, but stage is a bit of a different story, so if we can translate that, I think we'll be quite good. But yeah, there are some growing pains. I think, especially since it's Why Not's first time starting as a starter, and also Daystar's Korean. But yeah, we're definitely getting there, and each game it's improving leaps and bounds. So it's going great.
Speaking a bit to that, what would you say the main things you guys are focusing on to sort of transition those scrim games, those scrim wins, to stage wins?
Honestly, it's kind of hard since you only play only been playing 2 stage games a week. So it's really just really drilling sort of how to win in practice, and hopefully we can just go back to the habits that we do in practice and just be able to replicate on stage. I feel like that's really all you can do.
Now, who do you think is the biggest voice on the team? Is it Why Not? Because from what we see from an outside's perspective, we just see Why Not talking all the time on Twitter, in the Rift, out of the Rift, in text chat, pinging until he can't ping anymore. But is there anyone else on the team that talks as much as Why Not?
Oh yeah, it's definitely Why Not. He talks a lot, but I mean, Daystar's really good at calling team fights. You hear a lot of go, 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 fight, fight, no, no, or yes, yes. That's basically it. But there is a lot of that, and normally when he's communicating that, it's correct, and everyone just follows. So that's really good. Otherwise, I normally talk about what we're doing next, stuff like that. So I feel like it works quite well.
Okay, nice little bit of insight. Either way, good luck today up against GZ. We'll see you guys maybe afterwards for a winner's interview.
Yeah, see you after.
Yeah, confidence. Love it. Thanks, Benvy.
See ya.
So yeah, Benvy, he's the best player in the league. Self-titled, Mac titled.
Yeah, the two most important.
That's 2 whole titles.
Mhm.
He's officially there.
They
Two
just need a
titles.
championship title on that Mac.
I mean, Mac predicted him first, so it's on the way. Yeah.
I predicted
You
it.
did too,
You did,
yeah.
mate, you did.
I was just like, yo, Why Not fanboy? He's gonna, show up, and he died in a minute.
You're a Chaz
Either
fanboy
way. Oh yeah, Chaz fanboy.
Yeah.
All the way.
That's
all
a
the
bit
way.
of the best play, Chaz.
It's time to be a fanboy for one of these teams. Of course, Dare fan vote time. Get those Twitch points in. Let us know how you think this game's going to go. I think this is, I'm going to say, almost right down the middle. I feel like it should be Bliss favored. But if GZ play like they did yesterday, it's literally anyone's game. So I don't know who's winning all the Twitch points and who's losing their Twitch points, but get them in either way. Let's see where we predicted. Let's see if there's some kind of separation between the panel here. We're all Bliss for the first page. Okay, all on the same page. Max, you're a Bliss fanboy too.
Yep,
so
all Bliss.
What do you think it is though? Is it 50-50? Is it like a 60-40? What are you feeling?
I think it's actually, if I had to put a number to it, I'd say 75-25.
Really?
I think Bliss is actually really underrated. I think what we're seeing from Bliss is sort of the start of a climb where they're reaching their confidence and actually playing to the level of their roster. I think Ground Zero, on the other hand, they haven't really shown anything. Obviously, besides those first 10 minutes, which we talked about, they haven't shown me enough to be like, okay, I'm convinced that this team can actually close out a game as of yet, right? So I think that just based on current form, I think the Bliss are the heavy favorites heading into this match.
Okay, well, let's see who's on what side, who won the coin flip. It was GZ, and they've chosen red side, so they're going to be able to get that counter pick towards the end of the draft. And look, for you guys at home who might not be in the know, it's called the Max of the Week, because not only is Max here, but we've got for you, of course, a lovely trifecta with these three. They didn't invite me. They didn't want the quadcast. I offered. I said, hey, guys, look, I am really good at talking. And they said, look, Mac, shut up. Anyway, that was
word for
my-
word what
We
we
said,
said.
take a break, King.
Yeah,
You're doing such a great job hosting.
go be on your own in the
Go
green
relax,
room,
mate.
all right? Look, you're being a bit weird today. You need a little bit of
I'm ready for the
self-love.
Mac analysis after the game, though. You
Yes.
need a whole game
Yes.
back there just to
You talk
think,
about it
just
all.
cook up some notes, mate.
Surely.
Give us the gas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll do do my best Kitty impersonation right at the end. Just talk for the 5 minutes of replays and give you all the best support insight, jungle path, why it worked, why it didn't, who's the best, who's the worst, and the win stuff.
The win
all
stuff
of that.
is true.
And the win stuff.
All of that, mate.
That's what it's all about. Now, what are we expecting to see, from the mid laners here? Are we expecting Daystar to get something that, he's strong at? He has, like, some ridiculous champ 4 at. So,
Oh, yeah. The dude plays everything, and I think Ground Zero opting towards that red side is quite smart. I think you don't want to play versus a Daystar counter pick.
Yeah.
Especially since Emphas actually hasn't shown much, right? I think he does actually have quite a versatile champion pool himself.
Okay.
But I think Daystar is someone, he's willing to pick Aurelia, he's willing to pick Lissandra. Like, you don't want to play against that in a rough matchup. So I think that they're trying to neutralize mid and potentially play towards that bot side where Dante and Bulldog can put some work in.
Well, guess what? Let's see what champs we are going to be picking because Champ Select is ready for the Max of the week. Max, take us into it.
Okay, I'm so excited to actually get into my first champion select of 2023, but here we go. The Ashe first pick coming out, we saw Benvi play this earlier in the split. We know Lemus can play it as well, so remaining very flexible on that first pick.
Benvi also one of the people that's been super flexible with like the Heimerdinger early, he has shown a willingness to play all of these different champions. A lot of the supports in the LCOs are multi-role players, so I think they've been quick to pick up the changes and the adaptations, but this so far, Max, feels much more like an LCK start to a draft, where we've actually just done a handshake on these ADCs and flex towards other roles.
Yeah, looking like the double-ranged bot lane, the makings of a double-ranged bot lane anyway. And looking probably going to be the Vi Sejuani trade you'd have to imagine. But it is why not after all. And why not Elise? Something we've seen before, it worked.
And I want to touch on just this exactly, that Ground Zero paid respect to the fact that he loves to play good Nidalee. Maybe one of the only players that had the license to play the cat says, no, that's been banned away. But you've let the Elise go through, which, as we saw, paired up with an aggressive top lane bruiser, and it really just went into a league of its own.
Yeah, absolutely unstoppable. So it will be interesting to see what they actually opt for the top side, whether Lived wants to go towards something like a Renekton. We saw that combo work for them before. You would be blinding it in this case with answers like the Jack still available, but no Rusty. Like you said, very LCK style bot lane with the double ranged. Caitlyn Ashe wanting to push in, wanting to hit that turret.
We've seen the smiles as well from Benvi, loving it. It could be a Caitlyn support, of course. We've seen some flexibility there, but it means that is our bottom lane, regardless of the role that they choose to play. One major point of difference here as well through the draft is that Emphas is going to slam an Ahri, most likely to ban away some mid lane opposition here, but that does mean that support is left unpicked for Ground Zero. I'm always a fan of going for the red side last pick towards support. I think it's a super valuable comp pick, but you already know what your opponent bottom lane is going to be, and they now get to ban things that could be an issue for them. So we'll maybe see some, I don't know if Bulldog will play them, but maybe some like karmas and stuff taken away.
Yeah, I definitely like the way they're approaching draft. I think Ahri Vi, obviously a really good combo for diving onto that one target in the backline, blowing them up really quickly. And Bliss have a very high execution, explosive team comp, right? We look towards this bot lane, they want to push in, they want to get those dives working. And with that comes the risk of, a botch dive ends up, your bot lane that needs to be ahead, can't really play the game. So I am looking at why not. I am looking at Lemus and Benvi. They've shown us before that they can really stomp that bot lane on things like the Lucian Nami, but can they replicate it in this game with Ground Zero having the support counter pick?
And it's just so much engaged so far from Ground Zero in response. I mean, this is the moment where you're saying, Lived, can you play a top Olaf? Because you can immune all of this right now, right? The Varus, the Vi, as well as the Ahri. Going to be a bit of a menace to try and contend with once we do group up for those big team fights. But I think it's screaming for some form of engage. One big tank, somebody that gets the ball rolling to give you that front line for the range to be abused.
It's weird that in my head I had a Mumu. I was just looking at it, and you kind of mentioned it. There's a lot of single target for both teams, though. The Ashe Arrow, the Elise Cocoon, right? There's a lot of single target comboing, which means multiple carries can be valuable, or AoE is now going to be another option that you look towards picking. So they've banned away a Nautilus and an Amumu who could be seen as like AoE team fighters that could round out Ground Zero's composition.
Ooh.
But that's not what they want.
The dog gives us a bit of a flex, locking in the Pike.
Yeah, this is really interesting to me. The Pike into the double pushing bot lanes. What this is saying to me is they want to match aggression with aggression, basically cheat the whole getting wave stacked and just fight, right? You do have the Vi who's going to be looking to get down towards that bot lane early on, but if this Pike gets behind and is getting shoved waves on the turret, it's really, really hard to play. If he can't roam and he's constantly having to guard Dante from getting waves crash on his head, he's not able to do what Pike wants to do.
Yeah, it's not the same as like picking a Nautilus that'll always be relevant. Pike kind of has that feeling or reliance on finding some kind of advantage from the pick. But still, with that in mind, Bliss on the other side will see the Pyke. They'll pick the Sylas. Now a couple of really good ults to take away for sure. So far, 4 fantastic ults. And then the Renekton to go with the Elise, which shouldn't come as a surprise to Ground Zero. Which to me also makes the choice of going for the Pyke over a top laner interesting. That if you're expecting something like this to be seen, the question remains where Tron will go. How do you survive? How do you weather this storm if you can? Because you would love to play Jace that wins the matchup, but it doesn't win the 2v2.
And here we go. The Ornn pick signifies to me that they are just going to fully sack this top lane. We've seen Tron, often get left alone on the island on picks like the Gragas. So they're saying, we want Gooby to be able to path down and get some picks onto the Bliss's bot lane, because this is a very fragile bot lane, right? You blow sums early, that Pyke is going to be having a field day. Pyke Varus, very high damage, very high burst combo if they are able to get onto Team Bliss's bot lane. So definitely going to be interesting to see where Why Not paths, whether he wants to play towards that bot lane, extend their lead in terms of the platings, or wants to go to that Renekton and dive that Ornn and make his life a living hell.
And I would like to see him actually target the bot lane, because we referenced the game yesterday played by Pensnet when they had a Caitlyn support, right? If it fell behind, it felt really, really rough. But if you see that one do play from ahead, I mean, you're just taking turret plates, you're getting that all accrued, all the plates before 14 minutes, you're translating that into early dragons. You're saying the Ornn scaling condition, it doesn't even exist.
Yeah, I am preferential to the Caitlyn as the ADC role here as well over the
Yes.
support for sure. I think it's very nice to be much more active with your team as the Ashe in this game, throwing arrows to lanes where an Elise can be waiting in the bush in the sidelines, giving them points of access against the enemy team where there are a lot of squishy carries pretty much everywhere except for top lane. So I think that's going to be really good for Bliss once they hit their mid-game stride. And I realistically think that's what they're looking for, right? Try and get some early ganks, some early leads. Why Not was really proficient with his Elise pathing, and then just look to translate that into like a snowball out of control.
Yeah, definitely. The main thing I'm looking towards is the stabilization of the bot lane, just making sure the Caitlyn Ashe are able to play the lane how they want to. Warding for those level 1, level 2 ganks. If Gooby comes down early and, because Caitlyn Lux, they just want to hit those waves, they want a 3-wave crash, get the wave into a really nice state. If Gooby somehow manages to cheat that, it can really throw off the tempo of the game. So I'm looking at Why Not particularly. You mentioned his creative pathing, potentially even looking for an invade, something like that. They do have a very strong 4v4 level 1 bot lane. So if they are able to get stuff done early, they can really accelerate this Caitlyn to take over the game.
And just 5 phenomenal ults for Daystar to deny, right? As the Sylas, the hijacker is going to find invaluable value in the reckoning of that literally anything you can choose will just be relevant for any kind of situation that presents itself. So we are really teeing this one up for a Daystar masterclass amongst many other things, as we are having a bit of a battle in the middle of the pack here. Both teams are going to try and figure out, really, where should we be going into playoffs looking like? The chance to just see how evenly matched either team is.
Now, Max, you've been a jungler for a while now as well. If you were Why Not in this situation, would you be pathing towards your Renekton lane, or would you be trying to path the bottom to stabilize a Caitlyn Ashe?
I would want to match the Vi on my first clear. I think, like I mentioned before, it's your top lane matchup. Renekton is actually fine to play into Ornn. Like, it sort of is a very nothing matchup unless you are wanting to really hammer it, right? And I think that in terms of ease of execution, you can just have an easier game if your bot lane should naturally win this lane, right? As long as nothing goes crazy, as long as there's no, mistakes from the side of Bliss, they should naturally accrue a gold lead. So that's something you can sort of play towards as a guaranteed way to get yourself nice and ahead in this early game.
Completely agree with that. We'll see where he chooses to start this one off, however. With having that pushing bottom lane, you don't really want them to leash either. You would rather they start in lane. With that in mind, they've placed one really shallow ward, presumably reset for the sweeper as well, trying to get that bot lane control. Would not be surprised to see Caitlyn Q Ashe W just come out of a bush and try and chunk the Pyke. It is very hard to push a Pyke out of lane. That much is for certain, especially when he's gone for the pauldrons instead of, like a Spell Thief style build. Just a bit tankier.
He's anticipating the cheese though with that ward tech, right? Wants to get vision control, wants to get bush control, right? Prevent them really being able to land traps and harass Fareeze. There is the skewer, there is the damage, ignite, flash. They're in for the kill right now, somebody heal. Is it enough? I think it is. Burning down to 30 HP and they turn it around into Dante's head. That's one. Bulldog can't convert it into an answer back. They won't get the 1-for-1 trade, but they took a guess.
And that was so close to being almost game-breaking. We talked about it. This lane is completely fine for Bliss as long as nothing crazy happens, right? And that hook landing level 1, almost getting the kill in the first blood, but just out of range for Dante to pick up that kill. And now Dante lacking the flash. Pyke no sums either, so it just becomes so hard to make a further play onto this bot lane of Team Bliss.
We've seen this a couple of times already in the LCO, but teams going for that one big punch, going to commit for the kill completely instead of just a positive health trade. Once you had the Hail of Blades triple auto on Benvi, that's a half health Ashe that's lethal next hook.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
They go for that play, right? They go a little bit too far and it gets punished. And so now Bliss find themselves in a position with an Elise mid lane.
This is really clever because I didn't spot Why Not on vision, the ward, the flash, the cocoon and the kill. That shuts down Enfys nicely and really makes sure that Daystar gets ahead.
Yeah, and really creative pathing there from Why Not. We saw Enfys not really expecting that angle at all. The full red side clear into coming from the top river, right? Not something you typically see. And the thing about when you're playing versus Renekton and Elise is your top laner is always scared in comms whenever he sees a wave pushing towards him. He's like, Gooby, I'm going to get dived on this wave. I'm going to need you topside. So your jungler's attention is very divided amongst all these lanes.
Exactly, yeah. Sorry, I was going to say it was mind control yesterday as well when we saw that, right? The Elise pathing was creative, but the rest of the team was freaking out saying, oh, there's Elise ganking me at all times. And that was used still by Lived, gets a nice ward at Krug, so we'll be able to see if the enemy jungler comes up there. And they kind of get inferred information to play the other side of the map as a result. You know that Vi might be bot side, so why not? With a wave here, looks like he's actually playing to counter while they push with no wards.
And this is the Elite's paths you love to see in solo queue. He hasn't touched a single topside camp, can I just mention? Like, he has done his red side, and he is not touching another camp. Just hit the counter gank, but a really smart read, like you mentioned. Going to find Gooby.
He certainly is in the bot lane tri-bush. They're going to take the 1v1 for the meantime as the bot duo is forced to get active and respond. But is Ground Zero forced to run away? So Why Not's read the play beautifully, as you highlight, with that top lane or top side of the camps is untouched. He's just really wanting to make sure that his bot lane stays ahead.
Getting that ward counts as a CS, I suppose. He's up to 13. But yeah, he's still here, still playing bottom. Kind of knows that this is where it's going to revolve around. You've got no summoners on Dante and Bulldog by that cleanse. Still Gooby here, though, so it is going to be a 3v3 if something breaks out. They don't know.
Just yet. You know he's charging up the fist. He goes in for it right now. Not going to land the stun is Bulldog. In jumps Gooby as well. Both missing their skill shots. There's Why Not will just descend down, and it really is just a warning.
You have to feel like Ground Zero could have potentially played that a bit slower. I don't know if Bliss actually had the whereabouts of Gooby there. If they did manage to hit the Pyke Q, but here we go again.
Oh, he's landing the skewer this time. They don't miss this time. Why Not taking a little bit too much for the taking there, and finally find their just reward by getting their first kill in this game.
I think maybe just assuming at that point that Gooby had gone back to base. He was intending it for a while, but the level 2 Pyke comes in, Ignite back up, Hail of Blades procs, just so much base damage comes out of him. Still very close to a 1-for-1 from Why Not, but I think at this point we'll finally go and clear some camps. Well-earned break after having not cleared one for about 3 minutes.
You never know. It looks like he is heading towards this topside scuttle here. So Why Not has always been someone who has had really creative pathing, and I think especially on Elise, being able to just do things out of the ordinary and create timers that you wouldn't expect. Like, he hung around that bot lane for way longer than anyone would actually think. Didn't manage to pick up a kill like we mentioned, but you know, I like it from him that he isn't just doing the conventional, I'm going to 3 camp into a top dive, things like that. It shows me that he's thinking ahead as a rookie.
One thing that I do want to highlight, though, and this is in contrast to Bliss's last game having played the Elise Renekton style, is that their opponent, instead of the Jace, is the Ornn. Tron is in a very happy position if Elise never comes up here. Even if he falls down 10 CS, 20 CS, right? Is that scaling pick this time around. Not about hitting one item at a good timing and doing high damage, but just about lasting in the game. The further it goes, the happier he's going to be compared to this Renekton. And they have put no attention towards him. So far, this Ornn pick is paying off very nicely.
It certainly is. Makes me wonder, I suppose, really, Max, from your perspective, right? If you're Liv playing the Renekton, are you saying, I want you to come top lane? Or are you more, in I suppose, in a situation where it's like, I need to win this 1v1?
Well, I think it's more of a thing that you scale in different ways, right? Renekton is going to be very happy heading towards those fights at 1-2 items because he just does so much damage at that point, right? He's going to be over-leveled compared to everyone else in the game. He is going to have the opportunity to win team fights. But the main thing I wanted to point out is that level 6s are coming in from the mid-jungle of Ground Zero, and that's a really big timer for me, because as we start thinking about these 4v4s bot lane, if you just double stack those ultimates onto someone, there's very little they can actually do, right? Unless it's on the Elise who has a repel up. But here we go, Gooby is hovering around. You'd have to assume just for the wave crash, but here goes Bulldog.
Looking for the skewer, goes for the tone. Oh, that's clever! You think it's going for Lemus, instead it's a trap. He went for Benvi.
Yeah, that flash from Gooby, I'm not sure, I think he was flashing the Caitlyn trap there, but Benvi missed opportunity to use a flash of his own to get out. And as we mentioned, right, they're so fragile in this bot lane. A single hook at the right time, it's just a kill guaranteed, and they're going to translate that into a dragon.
Really clean hook as well, though, from Bulldog. I feel like he went for the target we least expected because there was basically a minion separating them, and he managed to curve the hook, finds the spear that he's after, and skewers Benvi out of the game for a while. Lima's still going to be happily farming, but there's going to be a wave caught by Bulldog here to ensure that Dante's not going to miss a beat. And everything going very nicely in the bottom lane, at least bouncing back a bit better for Ground Zero. The place where they need to find those leads, they are finding them again.
We're on again though, Rusty. Constantly toying with the idea that if you step up a little bit too much, yes, you have range, but we have so much kill threat.
And it's your dream scenario, right, as the bot lane of Ground Zero. They're up CS, they're only down one plate, right? You're going into this sort of expecting to concede at least a couple plates against this pushing bot lane, but they just managed to find a really nice sequence of plays against the tempo of the game. As we see, though, Bliss obviously a lot stronger in this top side with the stars, with the Renekton. There's a bit of fighting towards this mid lane.
It certainly is. Emphis really coming out that one further behind. I'm not going to be too happy about how that trade worked out. And now you can see why not also going to play towards their side of the jungle, making it very difficult for Gooby to assist.
Oh, Spider stalking just beside the mid lane, always going to be a risk. And the thing is as well, Daystar's going for that Rod of Ages build. He doesn't have damage items. He is fairly tanky and can persevere through that lane, but I wasn't expecting a trade to go like that for Emphis. So it would have been that he was very much due for a base to come back with some extra items. I think he was sitting on 2 amp tomes. So just kind of got a cheeky punish there during the base timer. So while it looked really bad in mid, I don't think it means anything in reality. Teleports back in, has his lost chapter. It's the next objective that I think they start to play towards now, and there's going to be a while till that. So like Max said before, it's level 6s, perhaps for their bottom lanes now of both teams, where things start to really erupt.
And the Herald, the next big play that you have to imagine is going to come out from Why Not? Where does he want to put that? You know, it's sort of guaranteed towards that top side, given you have the Renekton. You're really confident in the 2v2, even if the Vi does come up to contest. But that being said, you don't really want the gold to go onto Renekton that much, right? He's going towards that Gore Drinker.
Yeah.
I know I went on a bit of a rant about that earlier. But you want that gold on the Caitlyn, right? He's down CS right now in this matchup. That is really not what you want. You want to get this Caitlyn out of lane, into that mid lane as quick as possible and start controlling the map.
I do agree with that, but I will say there's a chance it goes mid because you could hit Ashe level 6, reset arrows down mid. And if I don't force the ultimate out of Emphis, I'd be surprised. And even then, like once the ultimate's used, you just try and force out the Herald summon. But it looks like Ground Zero don't want anything to do with mid lane going Bliss's way. They're waiting in the wings.
They really want to deny that from ever occurring. You can see that Bliss are really looking to try and hold the wave at this point of the map so far. Realizing that they are down CS.
It does always feel bad, doesn't it, to see a Caitlyn not pushing anything, just like sitting here in a frozen position.
Yeah, they desperately need attention. They are going to get it now from Why Not on this pushing wave, but Ground Zero doing a good job of clearing it. They do the lethality Varus. As the arrow comes out onto
Great
Bulldog.
arrow, there's the flash, and there is the annihilation of Pyke's hopes and dreams, ready to try and counteract that one. Great idea to put the wall down, but just wrong place, wrong time.
Yeah, really nicely done, and it's about using the wall as well. The second Bulldog plants himself next to the wall, the arrow becomes really free to throw. That was a flash available for the Pyke, I believe, at the time, but just didn't have the reactions there from Bulldog to actually dodge that one out. And the combo, very clean layering of CC.
Yeah, and exactly like you called it, Rusty. As soon as that level 6 comes out from the Ashe, boom, headshot, it's a kill. Caitlyn, you know, finally picking a kill up for herself as well. Feeling pretty good about the game state.
Wondering where they go from here, though, right? They've got the kill bottom. Herald didn't get summoned, but there's going to be some cooldowns through their bottom lane in particular. Do they want to in any way position towards mid, right? Do they want to in any way position their Caitlyn out of bottom? Doesn't seem like it so far.
And look at the Herald as well. The Herald is actually quite close to timing out. Why Not is going to have to deploy it pretty soon. As he's walking towards this mid lane, like you said, Rusty, playing around that Silas with the rower completed. Definitely a point of strength here. Going to see where he wants to drop it, though.
May just hold this one for as long as possible with the next dragon up in 40 seconds. Gooby in the area, going to spot out a face-checking Daystar. I think probably not the trade I want because I'm down 3 levels in the 1v1.
Comedic timing, to be perfectly honest. Can't believe that Why Not didn't see Gooby there, but he was being very diligent in his face checking of all of the bushes, making sure no one was there.
He's going to press it. It's going to time out.
They're timed out. Oh, no, he summoned it. He summoned it.
In
okay.
the river we go.
Drake going to fight Herald here. Tron also going to build some items just prior to this fight starting. Completes the Radiant Virtue. Fights on.
They've sounded the horn. In they go. Flashing into the stun still, though. Benvi really is going to get zoned away from this situation. And Daystar just gets jumped upon. Everybody's here.
And it feels like a bit of miscommunication here as Lived is still on the flank, does have the ult, is full HP with that Gordon completed. He is able to dish out a fair bit of damage. It doesn't look like Bliss want to give this up.
Never wants it though. He's popped the dominance. He's going to go into this fight on his own right now. 1v5. They're turning attention off that dragon. Why Not goes in. He needs to stay alive. Gooby's dead. They have no smite. Why Not still surviving? He's burning down at 20%, but if he's still there, it is a freebie for them to deny away. The fight continues. They're chasing on. Bulldog is hungry, but he has to run. Liv is still keen to zone them back.
And really well done by Bliss to re-engage. For Ground Zero, unfortunately, it looked like they had that one big first punch. Tron was there so much faster. The fight was theirs to take, but they weren't able to find enough success to be able to go back to that Drake, but they doubled down. They said, this is the Drake that we want. Herald's gone on a bit of a journey to kick this one off. Just gives it's a ward for the team right now. And when the Ornn ult comes through, they try and lay a CC on Why Not, who just repels. They'll take Daystar, but now they make the decision on do we go for this Drake. But note all of the ults that are missing from this point on, Max.
Yeah, they only have the Pike ult here and Liv. Look at his positioning here. Absolutely perfect. Pincering onto Dante here. And when you're an AD carry faced with a full HP, Gordrinker, full Fury Renekton, there's very little you can do, even expanding the flash, but gets taken down in the end. And like you said, Rusty, there's just not enough gas left in the tank for Ground Zero to actually continue the back end of this fight.
You saw their Flash Clef burn, but doesn't really matter because Liv just matches it. And will always win out on that trade. That is the nightmare fuel, if you will, as an AD carry, right? Suddenly a bruiser rocks up to your lane and you're feeling good about your chances, but they just hit you with a little bit of an experience gap.
You know, the odd thing about that little fight as well is that it feels like the way Bliss have lost games. You know, not the way that Ground Zero have lost games. So the shoe on the other foot a little bit in this one. Perhaps it's positive signs that Bliss really starting to find their feet again, not just being scrim gods, but making better decisions around objectives, because that was a really tense call to make.
And my one concern for Ground Zero heading into the later stages of this game is their damage, right? We look at their team comp, they've got an Everfrost Ahri and a Lethality Varus. Neither of these champions are actually going to be putting out too much DPS. So if you're looking at someone like Liv sitting at 10 CS per minute, feeling pretty comfortable in the game state right now, you know, their pick is very reliant as Bulldog gets caught again. Not going to amount to anything though, but as I was saying, their composition is very pick reliant, right? They do need to find that one person and blow them up and then wait for their cooldowns to come back and repeat. Because if it's a straight 5v5 where everyone's involved, they simply don't have the damage to contend with Bliss.
100%. Herald to be spotted here. I guess the question is, can they get a Pike reset, right? If they're lacking damage when the game goes on, the whole idea of picking Pike is that you have enough burst up front. They have a single target damage style of composition as well, but it does mean that it has to be on Limas or it has to be on Benvi, or someone that will instantly fall down. So it just increases the difficulty of the execution. But it does mean they'll have very strong earlier spikes, right, with those lethality builds.
A few items coming across now on Brugglaive there for Bulldog. Give them a little bit more vision control, especially what you want as the Pike if you want to be roaming up an absolute storm. We're just going to pop his head into the mid lane here and see what he can achieve as objective just taken. But they certainly want to make sure they've got control of this mid lane. Nice there by Bulldog. Gives that a thumbs up.
Good guy, Bulldog there. As you see, pushing side lanes for both solo laners actually on Team Bliss here, it gives them quite an easy time getting control of the map, right? You do just send the Renekton to push in the Ornn. Silas beats up on Ahri, so they're able to move into whatever quadrant of the jungle that they deem fit. And the Herald, once again, in the inventory of Why Not. So a single pick, a single nice play can result in a really big break in terms of those structures.
Exactly right, and it's the Herald that stands out as well, particularly on that mid lane turret. If both side laners are pushing, you look at the minimap, you'll see them either collapse together once it's pushing, or the safe lane will collapse if someone gives more attention to one of them. And it's just about playing the numbers and trying to find that free opportunity to summon the Rift Herald where you don't lose anything for it. Really keeping Ground Zero busy is the name of the game. Poking away at them, seeing if there's any mistakes, because when it's two pick compositions that are colliding, it's the first person to misstep that gets punished. speaking of. They're looking for it.
They're waiting for the face check, aren't they? Would Team Bliss fall victim to those shenanigans? Why would they? Because they have an Ashe, but it doesn't matter. They can do Lucian things where they travel from such great distances to lock you down. And that was Gooby finding his target, but falling for his crimes. Gets answered back really well there by Team Bliss.
And you have to ask yourself, why? Like, what is the objective that we're going for diving that deep under the tier 1 turret, right? I mean, at best, you're killing Benvi with 2 ultimates expended, right? Is that really worth it? There's no objective up in terms of the Dragon yet for another 30 seconds, and the trade on the backside is going to allow them to get a free Herald drop here. It's probably going to get 2 charges. So a really big blunder from Ground Zero, just overcommitting to that play.
Yeah, I think the idea was sound, right, with that Drake coming up, that you play towards the river, but they drew their line in the sand, and then they still just saw Benvi and went too far. That might work if the outer turret's dead. You know, you've got a bit of a safer space there. It's a bit less safe for Bliss, but that's not the way that it pans out. That's not the way that Bliss are going to read the map, because their turret's standing, the reinforcements were there, and Ground Zero get heavily punished.
That shot goes out, finds a target. Is that who they're after, though? There's livery groups with the rest of the squad here in the mid lane, but having done that, you know, successful Herald summon into turret take, just gives you the inline trackers, Bliss, to go for this next Drake.
And look at the ultimates, Gooby and Emphis just shy of having those come back up again, so you really don't want to opt into any 5v5 when those ultimates are down. Instead, Ground Zero are going to say, okay, we're going to use this opportunity to get some vision control in this top side, because with a comp like theirs, you really need to make sure you are first to the area, you do deny that vision, like we saw before with them stacking in that bush, right? You do need to sort of make those kind of plays and then hope someone makes a mistake and you can capitalize.
Right now, we're looking like the inner turret's going to be the game plan for Team Bliss. You've got Why Not hovering the bot side of the map. Ground Zero are going to be playing the opposite side. We have seen a decent amount of not just double Heralds, but early Barons taken. So as the game crests closer to the 20-minute mark, getting vision there's never a bad idea. However, I don't think either of these teams are really Baron-based teams, and they want the pick instead. So here we are.
Daystar in a familiar situation where he invites the idea of a 1v3, but as we saw there, Why Not lurking in the shadows? Rogue Arrow goes across the map in case somebody were to chase on.
Could Bulldog smell him? He was just sitting in the bush. He was juking just outside of range perpetually. The sweeper didn't spot him, I don't think. He just knew something was up. Never trust Why Not.
Spidey senses, if you will.
And that is really the issue we were talking about before with the side lanes, right? You are having to commit multiple members if you actually are wanting to stop Daystar or Lived pushing, right? It's so hard for that Ari to actually do anything. She just tickles Sars at this stage, right? With the Zhonya's Hourglass and the Roa both completed. So it's really hard. It's going to put them on the clock almost to get something going in that 4-man group to be actually able to progress the game.
And I will say as well, this probably could have been a Luden-style game for sure, right? Maximize DPS. When you look at Ground Zero's composition, this is something that Emphis will have to consider after as well. He's the only magic damage. It's not like there's a Yone doing mixed damage. He's the only magic damage on the team. And he wants to do as much AP as he possibly can.
Oh. Dante pulls the trigger. That's a flash. Change to corruption. Is a chant. There's a kill. Instantly removing Benvi, but it's the support again. Daystar goes golden, utilizing, or rather, Why Not goes golden, utilizing the stopwatch. And drop down from the skies again and say, well, you've taken my support, but it doesn't really matter. Look how much you burnt for it.
And that is a successful replay of the exact play we saw before, right? Committing those ultimates, getting onto Benvi. That time he didn't have the flash to get back under that tier 1 turret, so they are going to find a pick. But once again, what are they able to actually get out of it? And the answer is really not that much, right? They get the kill, and that's great. But at the end of the day, they're not able to get the tower. There's no dragon up for them to take, so they are going to have to start timing these plays more around objectives to actually be able to further their stance in this game.
Yeah, if every time you go for a pick, the enemy team's got their waves pushed out and they can defend the mid wave, you don't actually gain anything tangible, as Liv is very tanky. So even with the hook going wide, there's a less of a chance of killing what is the unkillable Crocodile.
It has to feel bad also, guys, because you're looking at the idea that 4 ults have been committed to kill a support Ashe at the same time, right? So even if the timing is out of sync, where you're not playing for a Dragon Soul or even for a Baron contest, it's like we're putting all this attention just to take down a 1 and 3 Imperial Mandate Ashe.
I mean, you're very happy with that as Benvi, right? Like, you don't really care at that stage. You're kind of like, sure.
I've done my job.
Yeah, expend all those ultimates, because like we said, they're so reliant on those to actually, you know, start fights in the case of the Vi ultimate or the Ari ultimate, as potentially looking onto Daystar here, he is so tanky, though, so much survivability that they're just going to pull it off.
Yeah, so the thing that I wanted to highlight about that Ari build, didn't get to because the fight broke out, is the lack of magic damage, especially now that he's gone for that Banshee second. So as little damage as he possibly can purchase means that people like Silas and Elise can go Zonias very early, and they're just tanks.
Oh no, they've completely read the play there in Gooby. Spotted. Phenomenal vision control, really more than anything, and an ace and hold to guarantee that you are not going back to base. That is the start of a Baron.
Well, they're sort of playing it the opposite way to Team Bliss, to how GZ want to play, right? They're setting up that vision, they're finding those picks with that Ash Arrow there, and now no Smite available to contest this Baron. It's burning down really quickly, Skimmy.
And it certainly is. Lived on the flank in a familiar situation again, looking to try and cut off the entry, and they go. That is Enfys looking to try and steal it away, but it will not be that easy, especially when you're up against a 1200 Smite.
Very nicely done here by Team Bliss in a funny way, like you just highlighted, Max, showing Ground Zero how to play the composition of a similar style out. Much more correct. So they'll forge themselves a pretty successful gold lead and put themselves well and truly in the driver's seat in this game with a Mountain Drake to get in 40 seconds and some turrets that are left standing that will most likely fall. They should be able to blow this gold lead out, close to 8 to 10k.
And if it was hard for Ornn and Ari to clear waves beforehand, they're Baron buff now, right? It becomes basically impossible. Ari has no damage. They're just going to have to resort to moving the Varus almost around the map, playing a bit of turret defense, trying to clear as many waves as you can, but it's really, really hard now. If Bliss just want to drop into this 1-3-1, as here comes a stolen Ornn ult.
Yeah, two ults go absolutely sideways. Gooby going to flash just to make sure that nothing hits him at all. He has managed to evade it.
Good flash. To be fair, gets himself out to safety. Bliss, we're not going to chase that one any further. It does mean that while Ground Zero are pushing the top side of the map and they'll get themselves a turret, consider that they're still dealing with a Baron buff opponent. And a very disheveled bottom side of the map means they will lose more at a much faster rate.
Yeah, they get that top lane tier 1, but they're going to lose 3 turrets, you have to imagine, in return. Like we said before, Varus is really the only one who can actually respond to these waves. So Bliss very happy to take that trade.
Gooby teeing up the idea of looking to try and find a pick target whilst they are split in a 1-4 situation. But it feels ever so risky. You look to go for a fight there, you get wiped, the game's over.
Drake to just fall back to as well, right? So Ground Zero, they're trying. Cocoon just goes wide.
Oh, Bulldog, this time the flash lands. Oh my god, the ace in the hole! That damage! That's illegal! And he's got attack speed items! In we go though, Gooby now in trouble, forced to use that assault and battery, but Venvi takes them down without any real concern or care in the world. Tron forced to run away. He's stunned, he's walking on a trap, he's unstoppable, but still, he is taking a bit of a beating right now as Daystar is agonizingly low. And the very defensively opted Ari is unable to find a kill.
And where's the damage? They're not able to find anyone simply because there's no threat, right? You look at this Varus, you look at this Ari, even if they're landing their full combo onto someone like the Renekton, I genuinely don't think he dies. Look at the inventories as well. Stopwatch for Elise, Silas, and Caitlyn, right? They're able to immune so much of that damage coming through. They really are going to struggle to find a single pick this late in the game.
And the beauty of what Team Bliss did just there with the Baron buff is they're able to push down structures, break towers, get a massive gold lead, and then just disengage towards the Mountain Drake, get themselves a potential soul point here of a Mountain Soul, which you've been talking about how tanky they are in comparison to the lack of damage of Ground Zero. It's getting more and more difficult with every single Drake, and if the Soul's there, I mean, there's no shot.
Yeah, it's absolutely gross. Ground Zero now, as we see a replay on this, the Cocoon actually goes wide here. Now, look at Gooby. If he clicks his mouse button down the tiniest bit, he's actually going to block that ult, and Bulldog could potentially get out, right? Gooby ends up going down anyway, so it doesn't really matter if he takes that damage. And look at the positioning of Dante and Empress in this fight. Not able to auto-attack, not able to throw out any spells, really. There's just no threat onto the front line. As here we go, we're back into action.
We are right back into the fold of things, and it's a team fight that actually starts off with Dante getting a kill. That's what you want to see. One removed. There's a great charm. Lived in trouble. Out goes the Call of the Forge Gods, and it's a flash away. But you've been sniped by the train. They've got the kill. That's what you need. But there's no objective on the map to take right now. Baron buff is expired, and respawn times are starting to add up. This is a lot of towers and a lot of map pressure to try and deny. Daystar just wants to trim the wave, wants to deny them whilst you wait 30 seconds.
Yeah, looking to trim the wave out. Now, we didn't see how that started, but it seems like it was a very positive situation. Perhaps the why not effect comes in. Ash Arrow going to come through. They've got Dante.
Oh, it's pixel perfect. It's exactly who you want. Lemus can literally just walk at him and click his way to victory. Oh, that hurts to see there. That looked like a moment in which Ground Zero could look to try and claw back that 10k deficit.
But as soon as it started, as soon as it ended, as the hook landing onto Bulldog here, Daystar's going to run him down, and he'll have the W up in a second.
Oh no, he tried to cancel. Unable to leap away to safety, and Tron just watches his support fall on down.
It's actually a cool ult idea there from Bulldog, because potentially if that ult hits in the middle of the wall, it could push him to the other side of it. Because, you know, it does move you to where the ultimate connects. But not going to get there in time, because he does just simply die. But now Team Bliss pushing top lane. Any advances that Ground Zero made have been handled. They've been dealt with. Mischief's managed. Now threatening another inhibitor structure.
It's level 15 for Tron right now as he jumps in. That means 2 ornaments have been complete. 2-man Everfrost, charm, damage and kill. That's Dante on the one. I mean, he's looking for it. They summon the All-Not once again and force out another flash. We're getting closer. Bliss are trying to end this game, but it feels like they need Baron buff at this point to really end it.
Yeah, and honestly, a really good job of Ground Zero catching out Why Not twice in a row. Like Rusty said, we didn't see that first play, but actually, here we go. Right as I say that, looking to contest towards this mid lane turret. I think he just steps a little bit too far forward, gets tagged by the Varus ult. There it is. And there is quite a lot of chain CC coming out of Ground Zero to actually take you down if you get hit by that initial CC. So a nice capitalization. And as the Baron gets closer to spawning, these picks can actually mean more and more for Ground Zero, right? Potentially taking down Why Not opens up avenues for you to get some bigger objectives and really swing the game back into your favor. That being said, it will take a miracle, but it can happen.
Yeah, one of the big things as well that I think Bliss need to come to terms with is while you're winning the game, a 1-for-1 is not worth it. So we've seen a few games from them, or a couple games back-to-back, where they've had leads, particularly their last one, and it's like they've done really good work at throwing the lead away as much as they possibly can, while still having a lead, but they're giving space, and better teams will take that space, they'll win the game outright. You can't do that against the Chiefs, right? They get those picks, they have turrets set up, they have waves controlled. They're still trying to find themselves more perfectly is the Bliss roster. What I will say is that Lemus has looked very good so far. No mistakes to be spoken towards just yet.
There's the caster ghost. He said it, Max.
He's going to die within 30 seconds.
I'm keen. This is a curse test.
Let's see if it happens.
He's not the one that has an Ashe against him this time. Surely, surely he can't.
Surely the binding is correct this time on that stopwatch or QSS.
Yeah, apparently he had his QSS on the wrong binding when he got caught mid after we spoke about him having QSS to survive.
Yep, the classic.
Yeah.
That's a big Ornn ultimate in that corridor.
Yeah, that's Daystar looking to try and zone him away, and zone him away successfully he has in a 1v5, staunched him out of the river, making sure that Team Bliss will get their second Baron. They've got the gold lead, and at 30 minutes in, this is looking like theirs to close out. 30 seconds, Mountain Soul, and you feel like you have everything at your disposal to get the dub.
Yeah, I think they are going to play it nice and patiently here. I would like to see them potentially sync this bot wave up with the mid wave in the spare time there is between dragon spawns. But yeah, slowing the game down, taking all the steps I need to, getting that Baron, getting that Mountain Soul, and then really after that, all that's left is to cross your T's, dot your I's, because the gold lead is almost 10,000, and with that Soul in hand as well, it becomes so hard to take down the members of Bliss.
There's one of those interesting situations, though, for Ground Zero, where they can't even throw a Gooby in and just pray that he gets the steal, because if he dies, the game likely is over.
Yep.
So you have to accept reality. And the reality is they've now got a Mountain Soul. They are so beefy. They've got the Baron buff to threaten, 3 inhibitors to be taken, 2 look free right now. So they want to try and crash this bot wave in. That was very nice Caitlyn ultimate to get rid of the Banshees for Daystar. You can see they were communicating that well.
I was just going to say, even look at Daystar's stats right now. 200 armor, 100 MR. He's an absolute raid boss. You can't take him down. He'll kill you instead. A flash forward, a Charmer's stun. Emphis in trouble. Why Not jumps down, but Daystar goes golden. Is this Ground Zero answering back? Slicing a dice. In goes Liv. Dominus active. He wants to take you down. He can't find it. They have every buff. The game could have fooled you, but they cannot find more than just a lonesome Pike.
Teleport comes in as well here, still threatening the mid lane inhibitor to fall. They're staying, they're looking for the end here and now. Ground Zero to defend.
Only an assault and battery left here for Gooby. He needs to find the target they're after. Need to coordinate this one. Great buffer there by Tron. Cancelling out the Enchanted Arrow, running back to the Phantom they go. Turn your attention right towards the Nexus. They would have had the KDA, why would you not? This has been a bloody affair, and they want more of it. They're going to close out their week with a win.
Yeah, and what a game. What a game from Bliss. When we talked about they really want to show themselves, they really want to prove that they are that team that can contend for the title. And, you know, a couple blunders, as we see Why Not doing one of his famed end-of-game celebrations. but a very well-executed game. I'm really liking the aggressive early game that this team is playing, and you know, besides a couple blunders from Wynot there at the end, it looked pretty cohesive throughout.
Yeah, really only 2 picks were taken away from them, and it was Wynot. The big thing for me as well, looking at this game, like holistically, is that Daystar's been shaky in every game at moments until this one, where it felt like he was just solid. Late game team fighting, he was a beast, and I think that's a glimpse into what Bliss are potentially capable of, because they do have a very high ceiling as a roster.
Yeah, Daystar looked excellent this game, especially him and Wynot definitely syncing up more, and that was obvious. Even from the get-go, the creative jungle path from Wynot coming in from top side up to clear and red side, which they knew, they had no idea that gank was coming. Daystar got up. I think he only got the assist, but at the same time, look, lane lead, of course, he has that extra couple of seconds to play for, extra couple of little minions. And then from there, it was just uphill, or downhill rather, for Bliss. A couple of moments as well where things got a little shaky. You could see that Ground Zero, they had an idea of what they wanted to do, and that was kill Benvi. But then past that, what else? You know, that's the real question that I've got about this game. It felt like their macro game was just not there, and Gooby was never there around the objectives. They were killing him. They were making sure he was out of the equation, and then Team Bliss was able just to battle for the neutral objectives, and there was no way for Ground Zero to go for him either.
And Mac, it feels like a sense of deja vu, right? It feels like it's going well for Ground Zero up until that first Dragon fight where they bring Tron down, and then it all goes horribly, right? The positioning was just off. They overcommitted too many ults to get that original kill. And like you said, right, you're investing all these resources to kill, you know, maybe Benvi on Ashe. What does it matter, right? You're not able to get any objectives. So I think Ground Zero, with this comp, didn't really make use of it to the full extent in terms of actually transitioning one pick into something more meaningful.
Is it Tron the POM or is it Tron the problem? That's the question that all the people are asking at the moment, because there's something going on in the top lane. It felt like, look, I'm just putting on my kiddies, you know, ego sassy pants from yesterday, all right? I should grab the sunnies. No, but look, everyone playing pretty damn well from Team Bliss. As you mentioned towards the end, look, curse test passed. No caster's curse coming through. Limas, you can thank him later for that one. The perfect game, the perfect celebrations. And look, Team Bliss, that's another win on the board, so they're going to be extremely happy with that. Moving up the leaderboard, another step. I think they were tied with Mammoth from memory. Either way,
this should put them above them for sure, yeah.
So we'll be able to double check that one towards the end of the day. Of course, look, Soul towards the end made him unstoppable, and Daystar, literally a raid boss, just untouchable. Look at the damage, 20.9k. The closest was actually old mate from GZ, Dante, 20.6k. And so he was doing his job. He was, you know, doing some damage. Unfortunately, it felt like that damage wasn't converted into any objectives. It felt like they just couldn't get any map control, couldn't get the vision.
Just hard. I think it's just really hard for him to execute, because you'd see in a lot of those replay moments, it'd be Lived or Daystar just right on top of his head, right? Always forcing double summoners. If those were down, it was a foregone conclusion. But they even up and available, it was burning both on CD, and they would just match you summoner for summoner. So a rough affair really there for Dante.
But look, someone that's getting on in age and probably likes a CD because digital music didn't exist when you were born, did it? Lived. Hey, what's up?
I know, I'm not that old. I mean, not that young, should I say. I had a couple CDs back in the day, okay?
That's what I said. Look, we're on the same page. Beautiful. Look, talk to me. How was that one? Did it feel like the synergy was starting to flow a bit better up against GZ today?
Yeah, I think everyone's starting to mix together, flow together well, so I think we can start to show what we're truly capable of on stage.
I've actually brought you on for one particular reason. Did you watch the pre-show?
No.
Okay. Well, this man here, he's a top laner. I don't know if you know Maximize. He's my friend.
I do.
He has a qualm. He's got something to pick with you, because you locked Renekton and you did the build that he said was trash. So please.
Okay.
Whoa!
Hey, Tristan, let me clarify. I said it in certain scenarios. I think this game, it's fine because you're a beefy frontline. Do you want to explain why it's fine in this game to Mac? Mac, it's not always bad.
There was 3 melee.
Explain it to him. Wait, I'm assuming you wanted me to go, the Prowler's Claw, Blade Thrower and King build?
Not this game. I'm saying that in 99% of games is the build you should go, but this one it was okay.
Okay, good.
And that's because GZ had like 3 melees, arguably.
Yeah. I do have a question.
Okay.
Lift, I think you've always been someone who has been like a rock solid, steady performer on any team you've been on. You've sort of been the unsung hero who's always holding down the lane. What are sort of the expectations you've set for yourself this split, and do you feel like you're playing to that level?
I don't think I'm there yet. I would actually like to win a split. I think that would be nice. Even though I did get to go to Worlds for 2021, didn't actually win. That was kind of like a lucky thing that happened. So I think this is the year that I'll finally be able to make that dream come true.
Who is your favorite teammate? The hard-hitting questions coming through right now.
Ooh. Probably Daystar, even though he doesn't speak any English. When he does say English words, it's pretty funny. It's great.
Okay, is it because you're a bit of an anime fanatic, so you just feel like you're watching anime as he's, you know, schooling kids in mid lane? Is that the feel I'm getting?
He's more Korean than Japanese, so I think it's a little bit different. But
Well, anime
yeah,
is just animation, isn't it? It can be from any region.
No.
No?
But no.
I'm not
really,
a weeb. There you go.
You're not going to win this 1v1 anime 1v1 versus Liv. It's
Okay.
not happening.
I'm sorry. I've been gatekept.
Yep.
I've been gatekept completely. Either way, look, where to from here? Of course, you're doing pretty well. Is that 4 wins? Or is that no? That's 3 wins for you guys.
3 wins.
So you're getting up the leaderboard. How do you think the groups are going to look moving into the group stage?
I think it will be interesting, especially with Peace coming in next week, I believe. So I think that will actually shake things up a lot. So I'm actually curious. I think like everything's going to change. I think the leaderboard will change completely. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens.
Certainly will be. And Liv, look, you've been interesting. Thank you for schooling me on Renekton, top lane, and anime in this lovely interview that we've had. Either way, enjoy your weekend, and we'll see you next week.
Awesome. Thanks, you too, Matt.
It's funny to say enjoy your weekend because it is Wednesday.
You know, I have an analogy for you that might help with anime is if you say to a European football, they're not going to think of AFL.
That's fine.
They're going to think of soccer, right? They're all going to think of soccer. It's the same thing. You say anime.
The cursed word.
It's not that cursed. I said football first, to be fair. But it's like that with anime. You know, you say anime, you say Chinese animation. That's all. I just want to give you an analogy.
Okay, but if I went to America and I said Gaelic football.
Gaelic football?
Where are we going with
this? Do you
this?
think that they're going to have any idea of what's going on?
I don't think... I don't do Australians know Gaelic football in general?
I think so. I know it.
Do you know Gaelic football?
I'm pretty Aussie.
I have no idea.
handball?
Oh,
No,
Irish.
that's European
Irish.
handball.
It's Irish, right?
1%. Here he is. Either way, guys,
Something
we're
like
going
that,
off the rails. I'm going to bring us back on with the Dare MVP. Let's see who you guys in Twitch chat threw in the mix. And it's Why Not, again, doing work. But of course, this time, big work. 5-3 and 5, definitely helping out a lot of that early game, being where he needed to, being a nuisance, hovering the lanes that needed to win, and helping Limas get ahead, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say path in a very smart way, contrary to most of the Elises that you usually see in like a solo queue environment. They try to exploit one lane over and over. Why Not picked the correct path and correct lane for his win condition in a comp game. So I think he played very well.
Okay, well, that brings us to the final game of the day, which is, of course, coming up just after the break. We got Kanga, we got Direwolves, and we're going to say, hey, does a kangaroo win in a fight or does a wolf? Find out after the break.
Win for the face check, aren't they? Would Team Bliss fall victim to those shenanigans? Why would they? Because they have an Ashe, but it doesn't matter. They can do Lucian things when they travel from such great distances to lock you down. And that was Gooby finding his target, but falling for his crimes. Gets answered back really well there. Only an assault and battery left here for Gooby. He needs to find the target. They're off and need to coordinate this one. Great buffer there by Tron. Cancelling out the enchanted arrow, running back to the Phantom they go. Turn their attention right towards the Nexus. They would have had the